Godzilla 2014. Honestly, the first word that comes to mind when I think of this film is just boring, really. And since Netflix have taken it off their site, I had to spend a whole £6 just to watch this, and it felt a bit like a chore. But let me just say first that this is not a bad film. It's nowhere near something like Godzilla 1998 or The Planet Eater. So let's get this done and see if it was at least a good film. This is mostly opinionated, just so I don't upset anyone. Now, I personally didn't really enjoy this film, if I'm being completely honest. Now, I think the main problem that I have with it is half the time I just wanted to stop and do something else. Kinda like my videos, really. The pacing is a bit all over the place, and the shots are mainly just still and slow. And the acting is okay, actually. I mean, the script is actually fairly good, and it's realistic, has some amazing lines, but for some reason, the actors really, sound like they're doing a practice rehearsal, and just saying all their lines in the most boring/depressing way. You know, in -1, all the characters don't just act like they're reading lines off a script, they act like they're making it up on the spot, at that point in time, really letting their emotions tell them what to say next, and not just a piece of paper. And running with this boring theme about the film, just look at these shots. They're just so dull and washed out. It's all very monochrome, and sometimes that will definitely work, but not for the whole runtime of the film. There's probably a reason that King of the Monsters looks so different, because when I think of Godzilla 2019, I think of these amazing shades of bright blue emanating from Mothra and Godzilla. I also think of these amazing reds and oranges from Rodan as the fire demon emerges and sprays orange sparks behind its wings. But in 2014, look, it's just so grey. There's no faint pulsating blue from Godzilla, and the only colour in certain shots are the faint red eyes from the Mutos. It just seems a bit bland to me. And then there's the pacing. Godzilla shows up about an hour into the film, and when he does show up, he's only in the rest of the whole movie for about 10 minutes or so. You see, back to -1, sorry. Godzilla is in there for maybe 15 minutes or so, but the thing is, he's scattered everywhere for the whole movie, so you always get some relief after a long scene of people just talking. But in 2014, he's either fighting the Mutos or obscured by your vision because the focus is on the main characters instead. And speaking of the main characters, it just felt like they were merely existing to me. And it does just come to the point where the immersion breaks. You start to not care about the characters, and really don't care if they live or die, because you know there has to be a happy ending somehow. So no matter how many perilous shots you can do of Ford next to Godzilla, or falling out of a plane, you just don't get the feeling that he's actually in any real danger. And Godzilla in the film is okay. I think his design is really good, and he is very, very big. It definitely feels like he's going to do some serious damage whenever he's around. But let's also go on to the rivals to Godzilla, the Mutos. Funnily enough, I preferred watching the Mutos on screen over Godzilla. Now, this doesn't mean I enjoyed watching them, but I did prefer how they had better on-screen moments, like with them being peppered into the story as relief. And the designs just look really cool. It's basically an insect on stilts, what more could you want? And I mean, compared to Godzilla, at least they have more than one colour on them. And sometimes I feel a little bit sorry for them. They only really wanted to raise their young, but when Ford blows up the nest, and the female Muto rushes over to her young, I started to feel like they didn't really deserve this. And I know that would have resulted in a Muto takeover, but I mean, they were only really doing what they were hardwired to do. Anyways, it doesn't matter because they all die later on. And at the end of the film, you start to wonder why they are still so happy that Godzilla is alive. Like, didn't he kill thousands of people in the destruction of Hawaii and San Francisco? Like, all these people have lost their families and homes because of it, and they still call him a saviour of the city. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't really like the idea of Godzilla being the Earth's guardian or the maintainer of balance. It just makes the new Monsterverse installments feel like superhero films, and I don't really like that all too much. But that's what makes films great, because everyone can have their own opinion. Just shame that mine's not really in favour of this film. I think overall, I'd probably give this film about a score of 6 out of 10. I nearly did drop down to a 5, but then again, there are some aspects of the film that I really do like. I like that this film takes place somewhere other than Japan. It kind of feels like the monster as a threat can also be more global, and not just exclusive to appearing in Tokyo Bay. The CGI, while very boring sometimes, because of the monochrome colour, is really good. It really does make you feel the weight of these monsters, and how lumbering and heavy they are, and it makes you see them as massive threats. Unlike GVK, where the mecha just ragdolls the two monsters at alarming speeds, almost like action figures. And finally, I do like the overall story of Godzilla being awoken and killing off the Mutos, and then how the military would actually get involved and actually try to do something over letting them just fight like Dr. Serizawa wanted them to. It's just a shame it was so poorly delivered and acted out. So remember, this is just my opinion, you can have your own if you want, but honestly I'm not a massive fan of this film, especially now that Godzilla Minus One exists, and it just blows it out the water completely. And the drawing is done. I'm really happy with how this one turned out, and I'm really liking this mosaic style I've been experimenting with, and I hope you like it too. See ya.